Welcome to Dr.
Is a US.
Welcome to The hat is the hat.
You cannot talk. One more word, and I will feed you to my children.
You what?
I'm kidding. We are vegetarians.
Better? Creative, important and very flowing. That is what I think of this movie. It's for good reasons Black Panther won several MTV and BET awards. Let me diagnose this sick movie for you.
It is hard for a good man to be a king.
First of all, Wakanda is an amazing place. It looks awesome, beautiful, futuristic, and still felt like a realistic part of our own world. Wakanda possesses a very rare substance called vibranium. Something we already heard about in several Marvel movies. Tony Stark made the Captain America shield of it, and we were shown how difficult it was to obtain. But in Black Panther, we suddenly discover there is a whole country full of it. The kingdom hides their prized possessions at all cost. Not exactly strange if you think how world powers deal with rare or valuable substances. Think about
El Patrol gaming.
or
Diamonds are forever.
still, I immediately wondered, dude, why don't you share this vibranium with the rest of the world? Especially with the technological advances in medicine. I also am curious, could you make medicine out of vibranium? What kind of shit are you smoking there? The links to the MCU are very sparse in this movie. There is the vibranium, the link to the Civil War movie, and the White Wolf reference after the end credits. For more about Civil War, click the link right over here. So you could easily view Black Panther as a standalone movie. It's not too much about superheroes and does not refer to the MCU at all. So Wakanda is a beautiful and futuristic place, which I wish was real. And I am not the only one. Several cheap ticket sites noted a big rise in people for searching for flights to Wakanda. Atlanta Airport even joined in the fun by announcing departures for Wakanda.
I'm ready for you, baby! Wakanda!
I would definitely book a holiday to Wakanda if I could. What about you? Please leave your comment in the section below. So the atmosphere in this movie with its futuristic city life reminded me a lot of Blade Runner. At the same time, this movie feels like a crossover between James Bond and The Lion King. The high-tech laboratory led by Shuri mixed up with the traditional clothing and tribal rituals. The director did an excellent job here. This movie easily could be a Spielberg or a Zemeckis movie. It looks like a seasoned director made this movie, but it's 32-year-old Ryan Coogler who directed this, who only directed his first feature-length film in 2013. And 2 years later he made Creed. Hell of a good movie. Looking at Black Panther, it looks like an effortless, flowy movie. It's directed so well that you hardly notice it at all. That's how well it's done. Look at the bar scene in Busan, South Korea. It reminded me strongly of James Bond movies like Diamonds Are Forever or Casino Royale. The cinematography, zooming in from the country city level to the venue, the setting inside, dark and sparkly, espionage feeling, everyone dressed up to the max, how the camera followed and switched between the actors, just very flowy and effortless. It looks simple, but it's a skilled hand that made this. Now let's talk about the actors. Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa and Michael B. Jordan as the villain delivered amazing performances. I've said this before, but the villains in the recent movies are getting better and better. And this one is no exception. The villain here is definitely a murderer. But we can't help but feel sorry for him. I understand his motivations and his pain. Take for instance the trauma of him losing his dad. Yeah, we're at daddy issues again. And not only with him. He was basically betrayed by his own family and left to his own devices in a bad neighborhood, even though he is a rightful heir to the throne of Wakanda. One of the reasons this movie works so well is the second collaboration of Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler. They really have the X Factor together. Just think of Rocky 7. Creed. T'Challa is also played brilliantly by Chadwick Boseman. This guy can act. I saw the movie Get On Up. It's a biopic about James Brown, portrayed by Chadwick Boseman. And his performance was freaking great.
What you talking about? We can't go up there. Why not on the floor? It's like you said. We're just playing around with Caledonia. Let's go play around. Yo.
Caledonia!
Walking with my baby, she got great big feet. The long lead, the leg, and ain't got nothing to eat. But she's my baby, and I love her just the same.
Because it's real meaningful shit to James, because at the end of every sentence, he ended off with, he meant that shit that he just said, boy.
His performance was well, in this movie, he really showed the transition from a prince to an actual king. He is surrounded by brilliant actors, and yet he still shines very brightly. And he also has some daddy issues. He looks up at his father until he finds out that he abandoned his nephew and murdered his uncle. His visit to the spiritual realm portrays the traditional elements in this movie. His forefathers sitting in a tree like big cats. In the Netherlands, we actually have a saying when our beloved cats passes away. Zij gaan naar de eeuwige jachtvelden. It means that they are now in the eternal hunting grounds. This very much evoked that image for me. That brings me to the importance of traditions in this movie. Wakanda may be hyper-futuristic, but we still see the age-old rituals and traditions of African tribes, with all their different dresses and ways. I think in that way it honors the deep roots of African culture, while still being able to portray a technologically advanced society. In a way, it reminded me a bit of Japan, also highly advanced and very traditional. Some of the traditional was hard for me to grasp, especially the very strong honor codes. It is hard to watch when T'Challa gets defeated and all his family just stands there watching him without being able to interfere, held back only by some invisible honor code. The scenes at the waterfall with the different tribes are impressive, but also a huge contrast with the modernism of Wakanda. One thing I really appreciated in this movie was the female strength. All these powerhouse ladies, both physically and mentally strong and funny too. I think it's very telling that the movie starts off with Lupita Nyong'o being the ex-girlfriend of T'Challa, instead of being the typical love story. She is strong-minded and gives us the feeling that it was her decision to break up. She is a spy activist type of person.
Thank you. You saved me. You saved my family. Our nation.
There's nothing to thank me for. It is our duty to... It was my duty to fight for what I love.
He still has a thing for her, and his sister and mother are making fun of the fact that he freezes in front of his ex. Now, here is a freeze montage. The Dr. Videos freeze montage. Yep, just a freeze montage out of nowhere. Just go with it. Accept it. Just see it.
Tonight's forecast. A freeze is coming.
Just don't freeze when you see her.
What are you talking about? I never freeze.
You froze
Did he freeze?
like an antelope in headlights.
Are you finished?
Freeze!
Put your hands up.
But you told me to freeze.
All right, on freeze.
Freeze. Freeze. Breathe. Freeze.
Okay, enough freeze.
I was frozen today.
In fact, all the women around him are very strong. His younger sister is quite the Einstein of the family. The Q from James Bond. She invents highly technological miracles and teases her brother non-stop, as a typical sister would. But by far the most impressive was Okoye, played by Danai Gurira. She acted her ass off as the right hand of the king. She is an incredibly strong character, but also super funny. Her honor code is also very strong. She would kill her husband over her country. And also her action scenes are quite phenomenal. Of course, one of the most important themes for many is inclusiveness and black representation. I think this movie proved itself very much worthy, especially because it's done not so explicitly that it's all you can see. It's just most of the characters are black, but the story is flowy enough not for it becoming the biggest thing in your face. Of course, there are some racial themes, and the media also made a big thing out of it.
All right, where am I?
Don't scare me like that, colonizer.
It's quite telling that the movie starts in a British museum, the place that holds the most robbed colonial artifacts in the world. But I think, most importantly, this movie is telling a story where black culture and tradition is honored, at the same time showing a capability of hypermodernism and advancement. It's almost saying, the outside or this country or skin color may give you the wrong idea, because on the inside is a huge treasure, the vibranium, but also rich culture, technological inventions, and a huge potential. That is a very empowering and important message. To conclude, I found this movie very surprising and a lot better than I expected. I could recommend this movie to anyone, also if you're not interested in superhero stories, because it's only a small part of it. This movie gets a 9 out of 10 stars. Thanks for watching Dr. Video's Marvel reviews. Please take your medicinal prescription from the red button down below. Next review, Marvel's Avengers Infinity War.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
I cannot pronounce that name, man. T'Challa. T'Challa. Sound like Arabic. T'Challa. T'Challa.